Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Productive Attorney. My name's Jim Zeta. I'm your host. This is the podcast where we try to make lawyers be a little more productive and be able to spend time doing the things that they want to do and spend the time doing things they don't want to do at the office. Today, we're going to talk about what I call real-life marketing, or some people call networking. It has to do with a lot of face-to-face and phone calls. We'll do a podcast on social media. We'll do a podcast on other types of marketing, but I want to talk about real life stuff here, kind of personal relationships, things that work. As you know, I start these with a war story or something that has happened recently, and this goes to real life marketing. We'll do a podcast on financing, and one of the things about financing is I try and avoid long-term commitments when we do financing, but one of the long-term commitments that you really can't avoid if you have a bigger office and you have a lot of work is copier. And a copier lease, I've learned the hard way, you need to lease your copier, not buy it. And a copier lease is kind of like leasing a car. And so copier salesmen, there's a lot of those people, and they're always trying to sell you a copier or sell you a car, and that can get annoying after a while. We had a copier salesman. He was a really nice guy, and when he would come into the office, I would go ahead and take the time to personally meet with him after someone in my office would probably meet with him for a little while. And we developed a relationship. He was a nice guy, and he was always trying to do what I felt was the best deal and try and work hard for us to get the best process he could. And he got in a car accident, and he contacted us, and we represented him. And we were able to get him a settlement that helped him set himself up financially to where he could get his 92 acres. He has 92 acres in Louisiana, and that's kind of his place to go hunt, and it's his place to kind of retire and just sit in a rocking chair. He'll keep his place here in Texas, but that's his dream. That's what he wanted. And so we were able to go ahead and chase that down and work on his case, and eventually we were able to get him a settlement, and that settlement did eventually result in him getting and buying and being able to purchase that 92 acres. I received a phone call from him yesterday telling me, just thanking me for representing him and telling me that he is retiring as of the next business day, which is Monday. And that's a relationship that happened over a period of 15 or 20 years. And it just formed organically. It formed through the office, and we were able to get a case out of it, get a good resolution, get a nice fee for the firm, and help him out. That's an example of real-life networking and marketing. I want to start the talk with, marketing is how you get your lead, how you get your potential new client to come in and talk to you, and that's what we're talking about here. That's different than sales. Sales is what happens when the lead comes in and you've got the lead, and then you need to get them to sign the contract and you represent them. Those are two different concepts. And what we're talking about here is marketing. We're talking about getting someone to come to your office. And so where do you start at marketing? Well, we've talked about in several of the podcasts how you have to get your core values, how you have to get the practice the way you want to get it. And then one of the exercises you should do is determine who your perfect client is. So for example, in our law firm, the perfect client is somebody who's been in an automobile or a trucking accident. And I say accident, everybody corrects me and says collision because accident means no one's at fault. But collision, and they get in a collision and they are not at fault. They are truly injured. They have significant property damage to their vehicle. They've received treatment right away. They are very cooperative with us, give us all the information we ask when we ask them. They give us our space to go ahead and do the case, but when they have something that they want to know about the case, they inquire and are patient if we're busy to get back with them. They're also very reasonable when it comes time to trying to resolve the case, and they listen to our recommendations as to whether or not we take them or not. And that to us is a perfect client. It's not necessarily under gender or sex or race or age. It's just someone who's had those circumstances happen to them. And then if it turns out that the personalities mesh like it did with a copier salesman, and you just like each other generally, that's an added benefit. But that's the perfect client. So whatever you're involved in, whatever you have, the type of law you have, is find out what your perfect client is. Then, of course, you have to figure out the name of your firm. We recently rebranded from the Law Office of Jim Zeta to the Zeta Firm. The reason we did that is because I'm nearing the end of my career. I have 2 lawyers in the office that work for me, and so I don't want it to be just me. I want it to be a firm, and so that's why we've done that. Then you have to set up a website. You set up an email. When you set up an email, you don't do Gmail. You go ahead and set up your email so that it's, for example, me, Jim@ZetaFirm.com. And then the very first real-life marketing, the very first networking you need to do is you need to tell your family and you need to tell your friends what you do. I know that sounds weird that you have to do that, but sometimes family forgets what you do, and you just have to tap them on the shoulder and remind them, I'm out here, I'm working, and I'm here doing the job. Recently, I've just become more and more aware of the fact that you are the main character in your life, but you are just an extra in everybody else's life. And so when you go out and think, everybody's thinking, oh, Jim's got this new business, I want to help him. That's not true. When you tap them on the shoulder and you say, remember, I've got this business over here and I would like you to help me, family and friends will go out of their way to do it, but you just simply got to remind them. I know several attorneys who have done the first steps, decided the area of law, gotten the name of the firm, got the website with email, told family and friends, and had enough business that they didn't need to go any further than those steps. I think that you do need to go further than those steps to really get the perfect client. You can get clients, but to get that perfect client. So once you get that, then you go ahead and you can get some business cards. Those help. They're not as important as they were 15, 20 years ago because of cell phones. You can text people your information. And I have business cards. I don't use them as much, but they're still there. Then another recommendation for real life marketing is, in addition to going to state bar functions, and you should go to state bar function, you should go to functions with other lawyers, go to as many non-lawyer functions as you can. And that goes to any area where you have passion and you're going to be looked at as doing something that you enjoy. For example, soccer for me, as I've talked about, is what I like to do. I go to tournaments, I go to games, and I just every once in a while remind people what I do. Hey, I do car wrecks and trucking wrecks, and if you have any other issues, give me a call, and I've been in town for 30 years, and I can find you the right lawyer. And a lot of soccer people call me up on that, and that's because there's not a whole lot of lawyers out there, and not a lawyers that I not a lot of the lawyers who do the same kind of thing that I do. Also, if you hear from somebody, the big thing, and I put it in all capitals if I could, follow up. Follow up. Make sure you follow up with somebody and let them know, hey, I enjoyed talking to you at the soccer game, and if you have any more questions, let me know. Here's my contact information. Another way that you can meet people in real life is you can host functions. You can host a party at your house. You can host something at your law firm. Any number of things that you could do to host that people come to your place or your party, and then you can meet people there. There are things out there called there's structured networking. You've heard the Toastmasters. There's entrepreneurs, EO. What's that stand for? And you got EO. You've got all these different networking groups out there. And you can go ahead and go in those, and those network organizations are a great way to meet people, and it's kind of understood when you go to those that the purpose of those is to help each other, but it's also if there's something that comes up to do that. Another way to meet people is get involved in your community if that's what you're about. A lot of people who, in my age group, really like Rotary. Rotary seems to be a real popular area. If you like charity, get involved in a charity of your choice. I'm on a charity called the Greatest Gift Catalog Ever. They're a good group. I work with them. You can get involved with hospitals, with Kiwanis, with the Chamber of Commerce. But make sure when you get involved in these things, like we've talked about before, that it matches with your core values and go with your passion. I'm somebody who's coached kids my whole life. I'm somebody who has taught. I'm still teaching, and so my passion is in that area. And so Big Brothers and Sisters I was involved in with many years. I was a youth soccer coach for many years. I'm now a teacher at the law school, so that's kind of an area. Hobbies. You'd be surprised that if you do what your hobby is and you're passionate about it, how if you find someone else that has that same hobby and is also passionate like you about it, how much you have in common, and then when you have something in common, you can do things together. I was in Las Vegas at a soccer tournament that we go to every year, and we were at a team dinner, and the person on the left of me was talking about wine, and he clearly enjoyed wine, and that was one of his passions. I knew the person on the right of me liked wine, but the two of them did not know each other liked wine. I did the mutual introduction, actually stood up and got out of the way and asked one of them to move so they could talk about it. They got along great. That's a way you can get a connection. Another way you can get involved in real life marketing is political networking. If you like local politics or even statewide politics, one of the things you could do is you could run for an office. You can help a candidate. I've been involved in that because of my wife, who was on the Fort Worth City Council for 7 years and ran for mayor. And I know that there's a lot to be had in political networking. There's something in that with political networking, though, that you have to be ready with people with agendas. And so while everybody who's there in the political networking, my experience has been everybody's too broad. But a lot of people in there are people who have some sort of agenda, some sort of personal issue that they want to have come across. And so it's something that you have to be aware of when you get into. Sometimes you can get vendors, that, like I talked about my copier salesman, and then you can have other lawyers that can do it. Those are areas you can do it. Another area is other lawyers. I think a critical area is when you have other attorneys that are out there, you can go to them and ask them to say, hey, you're doing transactional work. Do you do car wrecks and truck wrecks? And they say no. And you say, if you have any that come in, let me know and I'll help you, and we'll do co-counsel arrangements and I'll make you some money. And I've done that with many, many, many lawyers. In fact, that is our primary area of referrals at this firm, is other lawyers. And so if you're out and you do transactional work, I know I don't do transactional work, and I get inquiries, hey, I'm forming a corporation, or I'm selling my business. Do you know somebody who can help? And I can get people out there to help. Remember that when you're out networking, you have a brand. You are your brand. And that is when someone sees you, they have a certain thought or a certain feeling. So I liken it to, if you look at the Coca-Cola brand, you look at the Pepsi brand, you look at GameStop, their brand, you get a feeling when you look at those brands. And that's what you want to have when people see you, is you want them to have a feeling. And in our position as attorneys, we want people to think that we're helpful and that we provide value. That's what we want as attorneys, and that's what our brand is. Other thing is they want consistency, that you are always being someone who is nice, who is someone who is open to talk to them and treating people well. I have a answer the phone the same way. I answer it, this is Jim, and the reason why I do that is I have a name Jamshid that can be confusing, so I want to make it easier for people. I want them to know they're talking to me, and I want them to know they can talk to Jim. Always, whether you're at a networking event, whether you're on the phone, say thank you. It's not hard to just give someone a thank you when you've done the work that you're doing for them, and then they come and they send you a piece of business, and you're saying, well, thanks for doing that, I really appreciate it. Or if a third party sends it, always make sure that you say thank you. I'm kind of split on the gifts and promotional products. I think the promotional products are kind of cool. I think gifts and promotional products help foster your brand. I don't know that they necessarily bring you cases. People don't look at a particular pen or a particular, like we give away little soccer balls, foam soccer balls that kids love. They don't look at those and they go, oh, well, I'm going to hire an attorney because I saw the soccer ball. But it does help people when they see your name and they see it again and again, your brand starts to come across. One thing that a friend of mine has told me that I have not done yet and that I need to do, what he has done is he made a list of 20 people that he wanted to meet and he wanted to talk to. And he went out and met with every single one of those. The dean of the law school, when he came into Fort Worth a few years ago, he met with everybody he could in town to get the lay of the land. He met with me, he met with my wife when she's on the city council, he met with a lot of people. And through all of those conversations, he was able to develop relationships with everybody and get a lay of the land. I have not done that. I have a list of people that I want to go talk to, but I have not reached out and set it up. I like breakfast myself, breakfast meetings, and I should be able to set that up. Once I'm talking with somebody, I've been in athletics long enough, I've been in the law long enough, I've got lots of friends, I teach. I don't have any problem talking about really just about any subject that someone wants to talk about. And so it's not really the difficulty of when I'm with them, it's getting the appointment set up, getting in and just sitting down and talking to them. And I don't like to go into those meetings with an agenda. My purpose when I have these 20 people is just to see what it is that's making them tick, what it is that's working for them, what's not working for them. So that's the kind of advice that I need to do and listen to myself, is make that list and go out to 20 people. Then the last thing I want to talk about is functions. So over the last 7 years, I used to go to, before the last 7 years when my wife was on city council, I'd occasionally go to a charity function. And you know, there are, in any town that you're in, they have charity functions. And if you've gone to enough, in the last 7 years I have, they kind of go through a formula. You get there and there's nice people who greet you. If there's a theme, you know, they're dressed in the theme, you're dressed in the theme. Everybody's kind of smiling. They may have a few giveaways at the front. They give you your bidding code so that you can bid on the silent auction and you can bid on the live auction because it's a charity event. And they go ahead and tell you your table number. And so you get there, and in order for the function, in order to get them to get you to bid a lot, alcohol flows freely at these events. And people start to drink early in the process. A lot of times there's usually a half hour or an hour cocktail party or cocktail hour before you actually get into the event. A lot of times they'll have the doors closed for the main room, and they'll leave you out in the outer area. And in the outer area, they typically have a silent auction where you go and you write your pencil in your number, or if it's computerized, you enter your number to get what you want. They actually in some silent auctions you can get some really cool things. My wife and I enjoy staycations here in Fort Worth, and they will have packages for hotels and breakfast and all kinds of stuff for pretty cheap, and we've been able to get some of those at some of these silent auctions. Once the silent auction part is done and they open the doors, you go in and you go to the table, and you should be on your best behavior when you go to the table. There's a debate that I have among my friends as to whether or not you stand up every time a lady comes to the table and every time a lady leaves. We're here in Texas where people try to be extra polite, if you will. And I've talked to some people who do that and some people who don't. You just need to know whether or not that's something as a man that you need to do, and as a woman, whether you're comfortable with people doing or not doing. Once you're at the table, you introduce yourself to everybody at the table, and then you get to know the people closest to you, asking them questions. The story that I always tell is I went to the Zoo Ball in one year that Ann was, one of the early years that Ann was on. My wife was on the city council, and we were sitting at table 8, and I told this really that was the first time I'd been to it. And the zoo ball is for the Fort Worth Zoo, which is the number one zoo in the country. It's sponsored by some of the Bass family, who are Fort Worth's benefactors. They're billionaire brothers who have done really good things for the city of Fort Worth. And I sat down, and we had been invited to a table, and so we were sitting. And I told a friend who was there, who I knew, who had been to many of these. He said, "What table are you at?" And I said, "Table 8." And he goes, "Ooh." And I said, "Why is ooh at table 8? Ooh?" And he said, "Well, there's like 70, 80 tables here, and the tables are kind of ranked 1 to 70. Like the more important people are table 1 because it's up near the stage, and so you're pretty far up." I'm like, "Well, okay, great." I didn't think anything of it. So I'm sitting, and I have an empty seat to my right at the table, and we're well into dinner. So it's one of these buffets. You either have somebody bring you something, or this happened to be a buffet. It was really good food. And I had just about finished my buffet, and they were starting to serve dessert when the lady came and sat next to me. And I said, she was there. I said, "Hi, my name's Jim." She said, "Hi, my name's Alice." And I said, "Alice, dinner was almost done. I still think they're serving it. Would you like me to go get you a plate?" And she said, "No, I really just want dessert." And I said, "I'd be more than happy to do it." And she said, "No, I'm fine." I said, "Okay." I said, "How's your day going?" She says, "Great." She said, "The Arkansas Razorbacks won today, so I'm really happy." I said, "Well, that's great." And we had just other small talk. And I talked to her on my right, and I talked to my wife and other people on my left. When we left and went home, my wife said, "Do you know who that was?" And I said, "Yeah, that was Alice who liked Arkansas. She was really nice, and I really wish that I could have helped her get dinner." And she said, "Well, that was Alice Walton." And I said, "Who's Alice Walton?" And she said, "Google Alice Walton." So I Googled Alice Walton, and she is one of the 20th richest people in the world. She is as I believe, the sole heir of the Walmart fortune. And she's really nice, Now, when you go there with people who have that kind of money, they don't just give you money, and money's not falling off of them. So it wasn't something where anything ever came of it business-wise. It was just kind of a neat story. But what happens at those events is once you go ahead and you get through, as you're going through the process and the drinks start flowing, then they have the live auction, and then you see people who throw around big money for some deals. I tell you, in the last before COVID, in the 2 or 3 years before COVID, at least here in Fort Worth, they have one company that do the auctions, and they auction the same packages over and over again. And I believe the auctioneers get a piece of it, because the trick that they're doing as of late is they'll get 2 people to bid up against each other, and then when the 2 people, one person finally backs out, they go, "You know what? We're going to give away 2 of these," and so they get double the money. And so they get both people, because this person who lost was probably glad they lost, but now they have to go ahead and buy it again. So I've seen that trick lately. But that's when the live auction happens, and by the end of the live auction, then they have a band. And there's like 2 bands in Fort Worth that play all these charity auctions, and they play all the same songs, "Party Like It's 1999" and things like that. And you see a bunch of older people up who have been drinking, who can't dance, up and dancing, and it's kind of fun to watch. But at that point is when really you've got to be careful. If you drink, you cannot get drunk at these events. It will go against your reputation. It'll go against your brand. You cannot be that person that just gets trashed at one of these events. I've seen public figures get drunk. I've seen other lawyers get drunk. It does not reflect well on them. So go ahead and do that. One last thing I will talk about is the dress code. There's black tie and white tie and themes, and you really have to educate yourself. Go online and see what that means. And some themes you can't figure out, so you really need to call the host or somebody who knows the host and say, "What did you mean by safari wear?" Or in one year at the Zoo Ball, we had Indian safari wear, and this is a true story. I came to the event like I was going to be dressed like Indiana Jones, and everybody else was dressed in the formal India, like from India, the formal wear. I told Ann, "Go home," and we turned around and I just put on a dark suit and wore that, and I was okay. But that's a big faux pas there. and also, if that is something that interests you or interests your significant other, and you want to go to some things like that, every town has a list. There's a book of lists in every town. So go there and look at those lists and figure out what it is where it is you want to go, which ones you want to go to, and talk to some people. They may have some room at their tables where they'll invite you for free. If money's an issue, you can get invited to there, and just make sure you don't overbid on stuff and don't overdrink. So those are just some tips as to real life marketing. Also, I would just say find out who in town who are really good networkers, and put those on your list of 20 to go talk to. So that is real life marketing. Thanks for listening to The Productive Attorney. Goodbye.